Hello, everyone, and welcome to another session of How About Some Marketing's webinars that are happening each month, every last Thursday of each month. It's my pleasure to have a special guest today, and we'll get to know Kevin, what does he do, and his platform a little bit better moving forward. But before that, I just want to tell you that if you didn't have the opportunity, you can go right now to howaboutsomemarketing.com and subscribe to the newsletter, because that's the marketing newsletter you want to be subscribed to. And follow us, because we have many things we want you to know to step up your marketing game. Before I introduce our guest tonight, I'm going to give the word to our permanent guest and friend, Joachim, to introduce himself.
Thanks, Emanuel. Joachim Koch, founder and CEO of Aspiration Marketing. Website is aspiration.marketing. And we're an inbound marketing agency. We're also a HubSpot implementation partner. So a platform on which you can build websites, host blogs, and have the foundation for many of the things that Kevin will be talking about. So super excited about seeing some of the techniques that Kevin will be introducing from a link building perspective, because link building is, as you will see and as he will say, is a super important thing for search engine optimization. So thanks for having me, Emanuel, and I'm looking forward to learning a little bit more of what Kevin has to share.
Always a pleasure. Thank you for being here, Joachim. Now, Kevin embarked on his career in SEO in 2010 when he helped a modest remodeling company. His journey initially focused on assisting startups, evolved into mentoring small businesses. Over time, Kevin developed a keen interest in the concept of digital marketing divide. This interest was piqued by the stark advantage that large brands with substantial budget held over their smaller counterparts. I deal mostly with SMB, so I know that. As a result, Kevin challenged his interest into a mission to establish a structured platform and community for digital PR content promotion, specifically tailored to link building for small businesses. Now, I'm going to let Kevin introduce himself and his platform. Kevin?
Okay, so am I the... Okay, I am now. I'm just going to jump straight into my presentation, if that's fine.
Please do.
Okay. I got to make sure hang on a second. I got to make sure I pick the right screen. Give me 1 second. Okay, here we go.
And I confirm we can see your screen.
Okay, good. Now, as Emanuel said, my name is Kevin, and the company I'm with is Organic Growth. This first slide is simply what I'm going to be talking about today. So first, I'm going to talk about how links became extremely integral to Google being a demonstrably better search engine, literally from day one, but like also literally before day one. I'm going to talk a little about link building versus link earning versus topical authority. And actually, I need to take a quick break and let you know that I'm recovering from a cold. So periodically, I'll be sipping on my hot lemon water so I can continue to speak. The next topic is being better known through links and entities. Entities is about entity SEO, the knowledge panel, the knowledge graph, and Google is moving in that direction, and they're dragging us all along with them. I'll talk a little bit about that. And how us being interconnected can help us. Effectively, we can help each other. How to contact me, I'm going to give a very short demo of the platform we've built in which we're building a link earning community. And then I'm going to open it up for questions and answers. So first, how did links become so integral from Google being a better search engine from day one? So to tell that story, I have to tell, like, how did Google come into existence? Now, this headline is intended to be a little bit humorous. Two math nerds walked into a computer lab to study backrubs. And it's in reference to the fact that before Google existed as a company and a commercial product, it was a research project named Backrub. That URL, I put the URL in there because I know Emanuel is going to post this video someplace where people can see it. So you can find that URL if you want a written version of the story. So basically, back in the 1995, 1996 timeframe, a computer science PhD candidate at Stanford was kind of maybe even obsessed with an understanding of how academic papers have value based on the way they cite each other. And he just wanted to mathematically model how the value of a paper is derived from the citations to the paper, and the value of a citation is derived from the value of the paper that contains it. And apparently the math was incredibly difficult and he was having trouble. So he asked a buddy of his who was also a computer science PhD candidate at Stanford to help him with the math. And they worked it out to where they had a mathematical model of how all this worked. And then to test if their model and if their math was working, they needed a data set to test with. The World Wide Web had become a thing. It was much smaller than it is today, but it existed. And it was and is nothing more than a collection of documents that cite each other. So academic papers contain citations to each other. Web pages contain links. But from the perspective of their modeling and their math, those are the same thing. So he built some software to crawl the web and build a database of links. And that's how he was able to verify how effective his model and his math was. So while this is going on, there's a third guy who had graduated from Stanford like 20, 25 years previously and become quite wealthy as one of the 4 original founders of Sun Microsystems, which was another Stanford spinoff. And this guy kind of kept tabs on things that were happening at Stanford that had commercial potential. He heard about this project, went to visit them. And the story goes that he's the guy who convinced them that they maybe didn't fully understand what they had built. His claim, which has since been supported over and over and over again, is that their little research project was a demonstrably better search engine than any search engine that existed at the time. So he wrote them a check for $100,000. Backrub became Google, and the rest, as they say, is history. And if you're interested, the guy who was obsessed with the problem was Larry Page. The guy who helped him with the math was Sergey Brin. And the guy who wrote that initial $100,000 check, his name was Andreas Beckelstein.
I do want to just add to that. I'm so happy they didn't keep the name Backrub as a search engine. I need to say that out loud. Sorry for the interruption.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good name for a research project. But at some point, you know, somebody with a marketing background said, we got to change the name. So they did. And these days, so say it's Steve, and Steve is a SEO consultant in the greater metropolitan Vancouver area who services like relatively small clients. And I interviewed him a few years ago for an article I wrote for Search Engine Watch. And he had this great pithy little statement that I think really encapsulates why links matter to us. And that's that links show that you're known by the right people. Like, that's it in a nutshell. That's why links matter to us, and that's how Google tends to interpret them. However, links can also show that you're known by the wrong people. So an easy way to mentally kind of distinguish between a good link and a bad link is, are these the right people or not? Right people, meaning that it is topically relevant. For example, if you have a blog post about surfing, and in your blog post, you make references to the importance of surfboard wax, but rather than like write about surfboard wax, you link to an article on surfboard wax, that is topically relevant and by definition to the right people, whereas a link to an article about reverse mortgages would not fit, for example. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the knowledge graph. This is Google's moving us from strings to things. So we've all seen in a Google search engine result page that bit off to the right where it's lots of little details about whatever it is you're searching for. You might be interested in Winston Churchill and you search for him. And off on the right, there's like his birthday, the day he died, various positions he held, just, little details about him. So that representation on screen, Google calls that the knowledge panel, and it's built from a database of entities in the background, and that database of entities is called the knowledge graph. And what matters here is that entities in the knowledge graph exist in relationship to each other. So Google has been pushing us forever and ever to think in terms of relationships, but as soon as the SEO community came into existence and realized that they could game the system, SEO people in Google entered into an arms race, and we've been in one ever since, and we still are. So Google is one algorithm update at a time, pushing us more into focus on quality writing, focus on relationships, blah, blah, blah. And this movement into SEO entities is pushing us further in that direction. So I can't actually see if I'm holding this up. So tell me if it's centered on the screen, Emanuel.
Almost, we can see SEO. Now we can see entity SEO.
Yeah, so this is a book, and I'll put the URL to where you can buy this book in the chat. You can buy it on Amazon for, $15 in the US. I don't know how much elsewhere. It's called Entity SEO. It's written by a guy named Dixon Jones, and it's basically an introduction or a primer to entity SEO. So if you haven't yet started learning about entity SEO, I highly recommend you buy this book and start learning, because that's where Google is pushing us. We're all going there, whether we are aware of it, care about it, want to. They're dragging us there, and we're all going. But what matters the most is that entities, again, they exist in relationship to each other. It's the relationships that matter and always have. Technically speaking, an HTML document with anchor text, which launches a link to another web page, what's supposed to happen is that the two topics are related in some way. Again, people game the system. We enter into the arms race. Well, with entities, it's really difficult to game that system. It may, in fact, not be possible. But even though Google has been pushing us, it's all about relationships. Many SEOs focus on link building as something that is transactional, which is why we have these server farms that are nothing but a bunch of links that are outbound and people sell them. And there's a bunch of really weird pseudo news websites that talk about a gazillion things. And they really exist as to be a place where people can sell links. One algorithm update at a time, Google is basically shutting down these tricks, if you will. And it's publish good content and focus on relationships. That's what we've been telling you forever. That's what we want you to do still. So now I'm going to talk a little about link building versus link earning versus topical authority. So first, and this is the most important thing about SEO, is no matter how you may feel about it, Google makes the rules. Per Google, EEAT defines quality. And if you have not ever read the Search Quality Evaluator Guidelines, you should do so. It's about 170 pages, which sounds daunting. and I'll paste this URL into the chat as well in a bit. If you want to know what Google means when they say quality, read this document. They spell it out in extreme detail. Now, Google once had something called Google Authorship, where they created an HTML author tag, and the Google Plus social media platform was the repository of author bios. And that all went away, but it really seems as if that new E, experience, to eat, is an attempt to like bring back authorship, but in a different way. And today, authors are entities. So the first E of EEAT is greatly enhanced by you becoming an entity, which can be done, but takes time. So how do you become an entity? So I'm going to use as an example a woman named Kashmira Bulsara. And this is really just to illustrate a point. No one ever knows who she is. She was born and raised in the UK. She lives in London. She's an entity because her older brother was known to the world as Freddie Mercury. So she's an entity because of a relationship she has to an entity. Now, in this case, it happens to be a person, her older brother, but it could be a place, a thing, anything. So the way that you become an entity is to have a recognized relationship with an entity. And in SEO speak, two entities with a relationship between them is called a triple. So like Kashmira Bulsara, well, I guess was, because Freddie Mercury is dead, but was the sister of Freddie Mercury. Freddie Mercury was the lead singer of Queen. Queen was a band, et cetera, et cetera. It's always two entities with a relationship between them. We also have this interesting saying in our culture of it's not what you know, it's who you know. However, neither of those have ever been true. We kind of like distorted the concept. What has always mattered is who knows you. Now, this next question. How do you make it to the big leagues? That's just a reference to the fact that I used the word triple. Triple is like a baseball concept as well. And the way you make it to the big leagues is you work your way up by becoming better known. You play in a league when you're a kid, you're pretty good, you get invited up to the next league, you're pretty good, you get invited up to the next league. And if you keep doing that and keep getting good enough, eventually you play in the major leagues. And every link from the right person adds to who knows you. So now I'm going to talk a little about being better known through links and entities. Becoming an entity generally takes time, and the way you do it is you are cited or linked to more by the right people, which brings us to the concept of a link profile. Link profiles are generally considered as belonging to websites, but they also belong to authors' bios. And whether you are aware or not, you have authors' bios on the internet. You have a LinkedIn profile. You write for a web page, and you literally have an author bio page on that website. These pages have links to them, demonstrating that you are known by others. Link profiles matter. They have detectable patterns, and at its core, Google is a pattern recognition engine. Natural link profiles versus unnatural link profiles is a thing. Link profile diversity matters, and this URL is to an article by Brian Dean, who's like the king of link building, in which, amongst other things, he talks about the importance of link profile diversity. And closed loops are detectable. So what's a closed loop? If two sites swap links, so site A links to B and B links to A, that's a two-site closed loop. But closed loops can be bigger. Site A can link to site B, to C, to D, all the way around until you get to Z, or Z for people who live outside the US. Site Z or Z links back to site A. That's a 26-site closed loop, but it's still a closed loop. Closed loops do occur naturally where it is topically appropriate and makes sense. But if a website or if an author's bio is a member of an excessive number of closed loops, that looks like it was engineered, which it probably was. Additionally, posts need outbound links. In the same way that academic papers cite each other, the equivalent of that on the World Wide Web is called a discovery link. A discovery link is a type of link, and it provides a citation or further information for the reader. People have done studies, and I probably should have cited one in this presentation, but people have done studies to show that all things being equal, posts with discovery links tend to rank higher than posts without. And by definition, discovery links are to and from the right people. So we all look for topically relevant and high quality link targets. And this is what brings us to community link earning and topical authority boosting. So we have built a platform in which we are building a community. The idea is that you look for link targets first within the community. And when you find a suitable link target, the quality is good, it's topically relevant, and you link to it, your web pages become more visible to other users within the community. Not on the larger web per se, but within the community. And this is done by calculating and assigning link credits every time one website links to another. And the main principles of the platform and the community are adhere to EEAT, focus on quality, work your way up, and avoid closed loops. But this is a network effect platform, and it has value only when there's an active community. So right now, we don't have an active enough community that I can feel like people will be willing to pay to join. That's because we're new, and it takes time to become known and to develop a community. So we are now giving away free forever subscriptions, and Emanuel has one, so that we can build an active community and we can charge others later. So if you're interested in a free forever subscription, you can contact me, or alternatively, Emanuel is going to put we have affiliate stuff coded into the platform. He's going to put his affiliate link into the chat. So use that link to sign up so that Emanuel gets credit for having brought you in.
I already did.
Okay, cool. This is how you contact me. Additionally, that URL takes you to a YouTube video, which is a shortened down version of this presentation and a demonstration. However, I'm going to jump into a quick demonstration now by leaving this presentation. So, Emanuel, I'm sorry?
Until you get everything ready, but you already have it. I just wanted to take a second to do a short commercial break to announce next month's webinar, which will be Digital Marketing Tips for 2024 and beyond. Challenging times are coming, said any business owner, any industry leader for the past 2,000, 5,000 years or so. Joachim and I will be discussing some digital marketing tips that marketing savvy business owners and digital marketers can apply to have a successful 2024 in terms of their digital marketing efforts. And I'm going to drop the link where you can subscribe. It's going to happen December 28, 2023. As you already know, the last Thursday of each month, 7 p.m. Eastern time. That being said, back to you, Kevin.
That sounds great, and thank you. So there's the platform consists of a number of pages: team, content, sources, inbox, my list, and our links. And just to make it go faster, I've opened up each one as a separate browser tab. So the team page is where your subscription details are matched. So a free forever subscription is a silver equivalent. Based on subscription limits, you can have up to 2 active team members, up to 4 active sites, up to 20 active pages. And the keyword there is active. I could add a team member, and that would bring me up to 2 for my subscription. And let's say that I'm no longer working with that person for whatever reason. I can inactivate them, which takes me back down to 1, and I can add a 3rd person. The same is true of pages and sites. If I'm at my subscription limit for pages, and there's a page that I've been promoting and I've gotten a lot of good links to it, I can archive that page. It's no longer active, and then I can add a new one. So that's the team page. The content page is where I add the pages that I want to promote. Now, I want to clarify that we are looking at a live platform, but this is a demo account within the live platform because I don't want to do demos using other people's data. So this is a website that talks about the history of banking regulation and stuff. I mean, we all have our weird hobbies, but this is one of mine. And if I wanted to add another page, I would click the red X, I would paste the URL in here, I would hit save, and then the platform will fetch that page in order to get the title tag and the meta description and stuff, as well as some domain specific details. And then it would create a record for that page, and it would show up as a page that I'm promoting. Sources is where you look for link targets. And this is all of the pages that everybody is promoting. You do a keyword search. In this case, I did a search for the phrase digital PR. It returned 15 results. Here they are. I can click the link to see the page. And in this case, it happens to be that article about the Google origin story I spoke about earlier. So I can read it. I can then go back to the platform and I can upvote the quality of the page. I could upvote the uniqueness of the page. I can either initiate a chat with the contact for the page if the icon is red. If the icon is blue, I don't initiate a chat. I resume an existing chat. If the icon is red, you start a new chat. Or I can add the page to my list, which is kind of like a bookmark. When you add a page to my list, you're basically saying, I am going to link to this page. Now, the fact that this one is red indicates that I have not added it. The fact that this one is blue indicates that I have. Okay. Inbox, if somebody sends you a message, the inbox menu label turns red. Any messages that are unread have a red dot, so you can easily find them. And it's just where you read the messages that are sent to you and reply. This is my list. And I'm going to go back to sources. And as you can see, there's 2 pages that I added to my list. These are them. Again, I can initiate a chat or I can resume an existing chat. Once I've linked to a page, I want to archive it. Out of sight, out of mind. The link's already done. I don't need to look at it. And additionally, once I've linked, I want to record that or log that in the platform. So I get my link credits. You do that with this icon. You paste the URL of your web page here, the one that contains the link. And when you say, like, record this link, the platform will fetch that web page from your site, look for the link, and when it finds it, assign the link credits. And then the last one is our links. And basically it's, in this case, it's people who are linking to me. So this web page links to this web page and did so on this date and time. In this case, I don't have anybody linking from me, but it's just a demo account. So anyway, that's a quick demonstration of the platform. And again, I want to focus on, like, the platform is one thing, but what really matters is the building of a community within the platform. And now it's Q&A time.
We have actually a question, a couple of them, but I do have some questions of my own. But before we pursue to that, I want to thank you, Kevin, for this. I believe it's called knowledge bomb that you dropped right now. Obviously, you don't need to know all the history to be successful in SEO, but for me, it's important. So thank you for sharing this. I was like in school, I have here my notepad and pen and paper, and I made some notes. And thank you for sharing that with my community, with the How About Some Marketing community. Let's
No
start
problem.
first
My pleasure.
with the questions that we have from the chat. And the first one, can you talk about PBNs?
Don't do it. I don't know what else to say, right? I mean, I'm positioning our platform as the anti-PBN.
And for those who are not familiar with PBNs, would you want to just talk a little bit about, like you say to ChatGPT, can you help me stay away from this? What do they mean?
Well, a PBN is a private blog network, and it's literally an individual or organization who owns a bunch of servers. And the purpose of those servers is to provide links to other websites. And they basically just sell links. So once upon a time, people brought up servers that were nothing but directories. A directory of, here's Acme Plumbing, and here's, this Chinese restaurant, and here's this massage therapist. And you would just pay money to get a slot in a directory. This was a way of doing PBNs. Now you can find a lot of what I'm going to call pseudo news sites that have like a whole bunch of really low quality articles, but like thousands and thousands and thousands of them. And when you buy a link, they crank out another crappy article on your behalf, and you get a link from that article. So this is part of the arms race that I made mention to. In 2005, those tricks worked great. They don't work so great anymore. And if you follow like the really notable people in SEO, Lily Ray and Danny Sullivan, et cetera, Barry Schwartz, they actually talk a lot about changes that have occurred since the last Google algorithm. And Google, one algorithm at a time, is basically shutting down these various ways of gaming the system and their effectiveness. So what I'm going to say next is an observation of mine. I cannot commit that it's 100% true, but it seems that what's happened over the years is somebody figures out a trick on how to game the system, and then the word gets out and a lot of people start doing it. And then when a certain gaming the system technique becomes too prevalent, Google update the algorithm to shut that one down. So people refer to my site as being penalized, or I'm being penalized. Well, from a Google perspective, what they've done is they've deranked a low quality website. And they do it in different ways at different times. In fact, they finally took care of one of my pet peeves. Like, I go online to look for recipes, and Google has finally, in their last helpful content update, like a couple of weeks ago, if you post a recipe and you tell your life story before you get to the recipe, they are now deranking those. They don't care about your life story. They just want it to be after the recipe. Put the recipe at the top. So this is another example. And the purpose of the life story is to basically put in a bunch of keywords and phrases that are beneficial to SEO. And there's nothing wrong with that. Google is now saying, just put it below the recipe, or they're going to deprioritize you. So anyway, this is a constant little arms race that SEOs and Google has been in. What strategies do I recommend for link building purposes? Well, that's the whole purpose why we're building this platform and community. That's the strategy that we are recommending, is join the community, participate, promote your content, look for things to link to. We think that this is an opportunity for a rising tide to lift all boats. Finding the right people to establish relationships with is a challenge. And the whole purpose of this link building platform, or link earning platform and community, is to make that whole process simpler and less painful.
Excellent answer. Now, for those of you who are watching, I'm using Kevin's platform, and it's an excellent platform. It's an opportunity, of course, to gain some valuable backlinks from other website owners, usually, that are generally interested in creating and establishing themselves as entities. Funny enough, because you mentioned entities so many times, this is a keyword I've been using a lot when I was on the agency side and talked to my clients. I was trying to describe the importance of entities in the whole grand scheme of things. So thank you for confirming, and thank you for all this information. Now, I do have a personal question. I like your opinion on where does AI come into all of this?
Well, in various places. So I personally think that the most important aspect of AI is that it provides a way of writing, generating content that is, I'm going to call it average. So like if you really suck at writing, using AI to generate content can make your writing better. It'll like elevate you to average. But AI, at least currently, cannot have an original thought and cannot view things from a new and interesting perspective. So if you're really good at something, don't use AI to do it. Use AI to get ideas for outlines, to get ideas on how to word specific paragraphs. Now, basically, I'm telling you how I use AI. I use AI to generate ideas for topics, to generate outlines, to generate paragraphs. I never ask AI to write like a whole document, but write me a paragraph about blah, blah, blah. And then I edit it and tweak it from there. On the other hand, if you're a terrible writer, moving from terrible to average is a step up. Right. So it's all context dependent.
Of course. And when I said AI, I meant the chat GPTs, right? Because there's been a boom, but we in SEO have dealt with AI before the majority of people, right? The machine learning algorithm that actually powers Google and everything else. And
there's a bunch of these generative AI platforms built on large language models. Like I personally I actually forget the name. I use Bing a lot when I'm interacting, and it's probably going to wind up being OpenAI, but I just like the way it works. It seems to work better than when I just go to the OpenAI URL for whatever reason.
Excellent. I did have a question here. I almost missed it because I wrote it somewhere else. You mentioned Queen, the band. How does Google know that you're talking about Queen the band and Queen Her Majesty?
My understanding is that it's based on this whole concept of relationships. Google appears to keep some track of what you recently searched for. So every 6 months or so, I run a test to see how good Google is getting. And I want Google to basically tell me something about Indians. And what I'm looking for is, are we talking about Indians from India, or are we talking about the Plains Indians of North America? And I ask a couple of questions, like leading questions, and then I ask kind of a vaguely worded question about Indians to see if it like retains context. And it seems to be getting better at doing that. So that's my belief, is that Google is able to retain some kind of memory, if that's the right word, of things you recently searched for, so that when you use the word Queen, it knows if you mean the band or the monarch.
Excellent question. So, well, there's no surprise there that Google has some data for you.
Mm-hmm.
Actually,
did I lose you? I'm not sure what happened, but I'm not seeing or hearing you, Emanuel.
We might have lost him, but I'm still here.
I'm back.
Okay, cool.
I'm back. I was saying that although we think that we have a special relationship, that Google knows us intimately, actually everything happens algorithmically. So,
well, that may be true, but algorithmically, Google knows us intimately. In fact, Facebook is the worst, but don't get me started.
We're just going to stop it there. Again, before wrapping this up, I don't see any more questions. If you have any questions, feel free to message Kevin directly. I highly recommend joining his platform, and have a link, and you'll have a link in the video description on YouTube if you're watching us on YouTube or on Facebook or on LinkedIn. Before we part ways, Kevin, any words of wisdom?
Yeah, do it the way Google says. Otherwise, they'll shut you down. I mean, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but this arms race that's existed between SEOs and Google's now for the last 20, 25 years, like it's not over, it's not slowing down. And Google's probably going to win. Do it their way.
They have been successful in the past with winning. So
yeah, so I see people throw out this phrase like how you fight with Google. And I'm like, you don't fight with Google. You learn to dance with Google.
That being said, again, Kevin, thank you so much for all the information and knowledge you shared. I would like to invite you, the one who's watching us, to go to howaboutsomemarketing.com. Over there, you'll find links to our YouTube channel, Facebook, LinkedIn, and so on. Actually, I'm still working on the site. I haven't launched it as of today, but hopefully 2024 will bring us lots of surprises, including a full-blown website. But also there's a link there to the newsletter, my newsletter, How About Some Marketing newsletter, the newsletter to step up your marketing game. Also, one last reminder that our next webinar will be on December 28th, last Thursday of the month, 7 p.m. EST, when me and Joachim will talk about digital marketing tips to be successful in 2024 and beyond.